So,
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
morning, Joanne.
Morning, Joanne.
And thank you for joining us. And I'm sorry for the slightly late start. Our 8 o'clock service just ended. If you don't mind, let me just turn on the lights for 1 second. Well, thank you all for joining us this morning. Good morning, and especially to Jean Kaczmarek.
Morning.
Thank you so much for taking the time to be with us this morning. And Jean, as you all know, is our DuPage County Clerk. And sorry, I had the, Kim, do you mind doing some introductions for us about Jean?
Sure, be happy to do a brief introduction, and then I think Jean has some opening remarks as well.
Okay.
So I had the privilege of meeting Jean years ago, and I think probably my first meeting was Parents' Day Out. I used to be a teacher in the Parents' Day Out program when her youngest, Jameson, was in. And you said Jameson is 26 now?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so a long time ago. And her older child, Julia, is the same age as my youngest, Elliot. And so they were in school at Lincoln together, and a junior high. And then Julia went to the Illinois Math and Science Academy, I believe. So they were not in high school together. But I also have been involved with the League of Women Voters since the mid-90s. And Jean has had connections with the League since back then. And I got to know her in her observations and following the DuPage County Election Commission and her concerns over making voting accessible and fair. And so she pursued that for many, many years. And here we have now this amazing county clerk who's responsible for the election commission in DuPage County. And I am extremely proud to know her and of the work she's done to help those of us who are voters here in DuPage. So welcome. Thank you, Jean, for coming.
Thank you for this invitation, Kim, to vote faithfully. And thanks to everyone joining us. This morning, I am addressing you nonpartisan in my position as DuPage County Clerk. And I am a 32-year resident of Glen Ellen and have very fond memories of St. Mark's, especially in the mid-90s. When my children were at that age where I really, really needed a break with Mom's Day Out, and then it was changed to the politically correct Parents' Day Out. But you cannot get a babysitter in the middle of the day, and if your family lives far away, what do? So that's a great program, and it's still going on. I'm sure it's one of your more popular programs. So prior to the pandemic, I loved inviting the public into this office, and thanks to Zoom, I can bring my office to you. So I'm going to show you a few things, and I'm going to go slow, so hopefully you won't get sick. I'm going to show you a little bit of my artwork. So I have surrounded myself with my heroes and my suffragette artwork. The faces of Susan B. Anthony and Elizabeth Cady Stanton and Carrie Chapman Catt, Alice Paul, and DuPage's own Ellen Martin serve as a constant reminder of what got me here and the job I must do. And it's a very tough act to follow. Hope I'm not going too fast. I don't want to make you sick or dizzy here. And it's kind of hard to tell because of the light right now, but my office has a view of beautiful County Farm Road and the Convalescent Center and Coroner's Office. And the bookshelves. So there you go. We're back. Okay. So the 100th anniversary of women's right to vote has arrived in the same year of what may be an election of historic voter turnout. The county clerk's office has faced unprecedented challenges in 2020, and I am proud to say that my staff has risen to meet those challenges. The COVID-19 pandemic struck at one of the worst possible times for our office. The initial spread of the virus and the public panic began to build during the first weeks of March, leading into the primary election of 2017. And while those states with elections earlier in March dodged some serious impacts of the pandemic, and those states with later elections at least had some knowledge of what problems to expect, Illinois and other states voting on March 17th were forced to respond with little warning and support. The situation was so dire that Ohio's governor made the last-minute decision to postpone that state's primary. Elections in Illinois proceeded on schedule. In the days leading to Election Day, we lost 17 polling places and 60% of our election judges. An emergency pay increase brought in new judges, some coming on board on the very morning of the election. And when hand sanitizer couldn't be found anywhere, Deputy Clerk of Elections Scott McKay called the owner of Mineral Masters in West Chicago, who made us a brush order. Scott drove to IKEA for cases of applicator bottles for the polling places, which were later filled by his wife and kids in their Wheaton kitchen. The bipartisan final vote by mail count, retabulation, and certification were completed on deadline despite the stay-at-home order and 10-person room limitation. March is also the busiest month in our revenue department, and the county clerk's office calculates property taxes and is required to present them to the treasurer's office by April 1st. During the pandemic this year, our office calculated the taxes of 335,000 parcels for 377 taxing districts. The staff of the county clerk's office demonstrated the courage, professionalism, and dedication I've had the privilege of observing every day since taking office. To address the needs of the 2020 election during a pandemic, the Illinois Assembly passed SB 1863 the end of May, and then Governor Pritzker signed it on June 16th. Most significantly, the law calls for an expansion of vote by mail. All recent voters in Illinois were to be sent vote by mail applications. Early voting hours are to be increased. Election Day, November 3rd, has been declared a state holiday. Schools will be made available as polling places where necessary. A large central polling place must be established for Election Day. And finally, a bipartisan panel of 3 judges will determine if a vote by mail ballot can be rejected. All told, our office is receiving an additional $3.5 million in CARES funding to our budget, roughly $1.5 million from the Illinois State Board of Elections, and about $2 million from DuPage. And I'm very pleased that the county board has provided bipartisan support for funding to make our 2020 election run smoothly. This funding has paid for a new mail sorter and other equipment to specifically support vote by mail operations. the printing of vote by mail applications, ballots, envelopes, postage, staffing, PPE, and other necessary resources. For voters, very little has changed regarding voting. You may not think that, but it's true. On November 3rd, we will still have regular election day voting at 268 polling places. We will have regular early voting starting October 19th with additional sites available. We've already started in-person early voting on paper ballots at the DuPage Fairgrounds, which started last Thursday. And again, we will offer vote by mail, which is essentially the same, just bigger. So let me talk for a bit about vote by mail. To date, we have received 162,000 vote by mail applications, and that's more than 5 times the total requested in 2016 and about 4 times requested in 2018. And it's still September. We have about 628,000 registered voters. Over 1/4 of total registered voters have applied for vote by mail so far. Here's what voters can do to help make vote by mail run smoothly in 2020. First, I strongly encourage voters who intend to vote by mail to apply for a ballot early, as in now. The easiest way to do so securely is through our website. We launched our online application the day the governor signed SB 1863 on June 16th. And it's been over 4 months now, 3 months now. I forget. It takes just a minute to apply online. Or voters can fill in the application sent 2 months ago, and hopefully this looks familiar to you. Sent this out to everyone. And it included a magnet to remind you that November 3rd is election day. So voters can fill out that application and drop it in the mail without a stamp, or if they prefer, they can place the application in an envelope and mail it back with postage. And there is a how-to video circulating on social media, which can also be found on our website's homepage and Facebook page. And while I mention it, please go to our Facebook and Twitter pages to like and follow. Thank you. The first 140,000 ballots were mailed out on September 24th. We expect the ballots to arrive in homes this week. Calling our office will not expedite this initial process, sorry. And when the ballot arrives, it will look just like the paper ballot in a polling place where you fill in the ovals. Use a dark black or blue ink, but not a Sharpie, because that might bleed through the paper. And then once it arrives, just complete the ballot as soon as possible and place it in the official envelope provided and seal it. On the back of the envelope is a red box you must sign, and your signature will be compared with your voter registration signature for verification. So that quick little squiggle you make for credit card purchases at stores won't work unless, of course, you use that identical squiggle when you register to vote. Postage will be paid for, so no worries about hunting for stamps, and then just drop it in a mailbox. Done. Ballot envelopes that are returned to our office unsealed, unsigned, or with a signature that doesn't reasonably resemble your voter registration signature will be rejected. And if rejected, you will be notified and be given the opportunity to correct the problem. But it's so much easier and faster to follow the simple instructions the first time and just be done with it. These simple instructions are explained in an insert going out with each ballot packet, both in English and Spanish. And These are the simple instructions to follow. In the back, Spanish. If you're planning to vote by mail, here's why we're asking you to do so early. In vote by mail states, registered voters are generally not sent applications. Voters in these states are sent ballots weeks in advance, and those ballots start to be returned right away, and most are received by election day. The vote by mail states know what's coming, and that's why it works. Illinois is not a vote by mail state per se. In the vote by mail states, it took years to implement vote by mail in increments, and we're doing so in half a year during a pandemic. And unlike vote by mail states, we're still running the conventional early voting and election day voting. And some have described this as running two side-by-side elections. It's a handful. In Illinois, we have an application process prior to sending out ballots. Processing hundreds of thousands of applications in a county our size is a massive, time-consuming process and requires the work of many individuals. We have over a dozen people processing applications all day long right now. It becomes much more challenging the closer we get to Election Day. And if applications are coming in late October, that means ballots are also going out in late October or early November as well. Vote by mail is not the best choice for procrastinators. Those waiting until the last 2 weeks in October to vote should consider going to early voting or election day for voting. By law, voters can still apply for vote by mail on October 29th, but that's very risky, and we're asking people to please use common sense. That deadline needs to be revisited. Again, if you intend on voting by mail, apply now. We've all heard the term flatten the curve a lot this year. And this phrase also pertains to vote by mail. To flatten the curve, voters must apply now and return ballots shortly after they arrive. The more ballots we receive earlier, the better, and the curve will be flattened instead of spiking near Election Day. There's a graphic our office created on our Facebook and Twitter pages called Flatten the Vote by Mail Curve. Please share this graphic broadly on your social media. Note that I've been urging everyone to drop their vote by mail ballot in a mailbox. Vote by mail is designed to work with the U.S. Postal Service. The post office was enthusiastic and proud to be fulfilling the service of vote by mail this year. And our office had meetings with the regional post office director and the county director long before recent developments. For those who apply early and complete their ballots right away, I don't anticipate a problem. After all, we're depending on the post office to send the ballots to you in the first place. So when you receive your ballot, it means everything is working. This election, I am choosing vote by mail. And although I will be walking past several drop boxes every day and could easily hand my ballot to my staff at the counter, I will use the U.S. Postal Service. The post office has assured us that nationwide they plan on placing postmarks on ballots. For those who haven't completed their vote by mail ballots until the end of October, or would feel more comfortable returning their ballots another way, we have the following options for returning them. Drop boxes are at the parking lot and within the main entrance of the 421 County Farm Road, Wheaton County campus. And just like with the application our office set out, the drop boxes are bright and colorful, red, white, and blue. You can't miss them. Our outdoor drop box is very solid and literally weighs a ton. It's bolted to cement. It has a small slit opening just big enough for a ballot to slip through. The parking lot is well lit and will have camera surveillance. A security guard in 421 monitors the cameras 24/7. Teams of election judges will empty the outdoor drop box as needed. Vote by mail ballots may be dropped off at the county clerk election division office or inside early voting and election day polling places. Altogether, that's nearly 300 drop boxes. For the 2020 election, we're offering ballot tracks. Voters choosing vote by mail can go to the homepage of our election website and click Track Your Vote by Mail Ballot. This will take you to a service that will do exactly that. Voters can opt to have updates via email or text. And by signing up, you will know when the ballot has been mailed to you, when it has been received at our office, and when it's been officially accepted by election judges. Only a handful of voters so far have signed up for ballot tracks. If you've applied for vote by mail, then do the next step, please, by signing up for ballot tracks found on the button directly under the video on our homepage. I received my first text from ballot tracks the end of last week. My ballot is on the way. While you've heard a lot of emphasis on vote by mail this morning, please keep in mind that it's one of several options to vote. We still have early voting and election day. Paper ballot early voting began September 24th and made national news. And last week the weather was beautiful and the lines were long. And by the way, this is how I chose to vote during the primary. And in those early days, 2, 3, 4 weeks before the election, there were hardly any people in line. And that's normally true for early voting at this point. But we made national news for our lines. If people choose to go for paper ballot early voting, they should prepare. Maybe they might consider bringing a chair. They may consider bringing an umbrella, a jacket. You have to dress for the weather because the lines are outside. And if you don't want to wait in line, and if you don't want to carry an umbrella, then you can apply for vote by mail. Again, that's paper ballot early voting. You can vote on paper at the fairgrounds through November 2nd. Regular early voting starts on October 19th, and this is where you vote on touch screens at locations throughout DuPage. We've increased those locations by 50%, beginning in the underserved areas of the county. Those new early voting locations and times can be found on our website. Just go to the homepage and click the button Early Voting Locations under the video. Finally, there's Election Day itself on November 3rd at your assigned polling place where you can vote on paper or touchscreen. Some polling places will be changing due to COVID. Notifications are going out to all those voters. Voters can also go to our website and click the button Find Your Polling Place on our homepage. At this point, we're still planning to keep 268 Election Day polling places. If there is a last minute change, that's why we have the fairgrounds to fulfill any voters that won't be served at their designated polling place. And I want to make a few additional points. Yes, we will be paying election judges more in 2020 Judges will receive a base pay of $130 and a COVID supplement of another $130 for a total of $260. We're in pretty good shape right now for election judges, but we're always recruiting. So just go to our homepage and click the button, apply to be a judge of election. Yes, we will be providing personal protection equipment, sanitation supplies, social distancing markers, and COVID-19 signage at polling places to keep the voters and judges safe. And with the expansion of vote by mail in Illinois and around the country, gone are the days where election results are pretty much done on election night, with potentially tens of thousands of ballots arriving at our office after November 3rd. It's very possible that results in some close races will flip between November 3rd and the following 14-day period prior to certification. So you need to prepare yourselves. Thank you. And I have some time for questions.
Jean, thank you so much for that very detailed explanation and helpful points. I wonder if, and Kim is putting some of the websites on the chat function here. Jean, I wonder, do you have a sort of a bullet point kind of sheet or a site that helps outline the really important points that you gave us today?
Actually, I don't think so. Our website, the homepage, has a great deal of information and directs people to whatever information they need to know. Just scroll underneath the video on the homepage and it just, you know, how to register, how to become an election judge, where are my polling places, how do I apply for vote by mail? It's all there. But that's a good idea. Maybe I do need to figure out how to make a bullet point of everything I just said.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you. That would be helpful. I'd like to, I wonder if you have any questions, if you want to just go ahead and unmute yourself and you can ask.
I have a question. I'm sorry if I came in late. I've sent in an application for a vote by mail, but I was wondering if I can return that to my polling place on election day.
Yes, you can. First of all, I just want to let you know that there's been a great deal of misinformation out on vote by mail. And I just want to assure people that voting by mail is safe, it is secure, and your vote will be counted. And the expansion was designed to keep people safe during the pandemic. So, I mean, I don't know what your reasons are for changing your mind, but I just want to make that assurance.
Okay, thank you.
But let me continue. I want to assure you that if you change your mind and you do want to vote during early voting or election day, yes, what you do is during early voting, you don't have to bring in your application, your ballot and your envelope. What you do is they'll know right away because they'll see on the poll pad that you have applied for vote by mail. And so that will be canceled out. And then you will be allowed to just vote as usual during early voting. However, on election day, if you change your mind, you don't want to vote by mail, you want to vote at a polling place, you really should be bringing in your ballot and your envelope, because you need to surrender that to an election judge if you want to vote normally. If you don't on election day bring in your ballot and envelope, then you will be issued a provisional ballot. Provisional ballots are counted. They just will not be counted until after election night during that 14-day period prior to certification.
Okay. Thank you.
I have a question regarding the mail-in votes. And I'm all for mail-in voting. I think it's great. But how will you verify that a registered voter is still living within the district?
Well, we've been catching some of those. We are notified of, our office is notified immediately of anyone who has died within the county. We're not notified as quickly for citizens who have died outside of the county or in another state. It's a felony. We're making that very clear for anyone who tries to do that. And once we find out that that person is, has been deceased, then their vote will not be counted.
I'm thinking more for people that have moved away.
And then they died after they moved away, or?
No, we've received multiple notices for a family member who no longer lives here. And
Okay.
so I would not, out of my own personal
Right.
conviction, I would not submit that. I would not request a mail-in ballot for a family member. But what is to stop someone from requesting a mail-in ballot, getting it? I mean, it's the verification through the signature is the only thing that's going to, I just bring it up as a question.
Did they receive this ballot? The application? Okay. Because there's a lot of applications that have been going out, I know. So what you would want to do also is to notify our office. Have you done that? To tell
No.
them? Okay.
No, we've destroyed it.
Okay.
So there's no way that it's going to be used. But I'm thinking of other people who, don't have that ethical background.
Right. Well, I can say that, the instances of voter fraud are very low.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, we have caught some of them ourselves.
Good.
Yeah. And you need to contact our office and let them know that your loved one has passed away and that you're still receiving the applications, because that means that they're still in the database.
Right. I just wondered if there was some cross-check that you would do for addresses electronically to verify someone's, where they're living now. Can I do that online? I've been to your website before. Just submit that name online.
You would need to come in to our office.
Okay.
You would call our office first,
Okay.
and they would
Okay.
walk you through
Great.
that.
Good. Thanks.
There's a question in the chat box. Hello, I think I've frozen for a moment. Can you all hear me? Yes.
I
Okay,
can hear
thank
you.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's a question.
Joanne, yeah, I think that was
Oh.
my question. I've gotten some questions from the younger crowd that maybe this is their first, time experiencing voting. Kim, thank you for sending that link to the DuPage page, to look up whether you're voted or whether you're registered. One of my questions is, can you confirm that the signature like that you registered to ballot is, aligned, or maybe, I guess my concern is that maybe you registered online and you did the squiggly through e-signature, which, as we all know, is not how some of our signatures actually look. But I know some of us register to vote, via paper. So is there a way to check on that? I mean, it would make sense to me that there wouldn't be a way to check on that. But just, that question.
Right. So what you would do in that case is you would contact our office. We've sent out notifications to anyone who have registered online and told them to please send us a copy of their signature. And I know that those notifications, either they have just gone out or they will be going out very soon. And that alerts all of the newly registered people that we need to have a copy of their signature. And the letter explains how to do that.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you.
And we assure people that they absolutely will be able to vote. So.
Thank you. There's a comment in the chat box from Mary Klein, Yaling. Thank you. I registered to track and found out that my ballot is in the mail. Things are working. So that's a good thing.
Yeah.
What a challenge to manage all of this. So that's fabulous. I have a question about identification. We have just moved and we have changed our address officially, but my driver's license doesn't reflect my current address. So if I went to the polling place, application be valid, considered valid?
Well, again, this would be like a first-time voter. Is this what we're talking about? A first-time voter in DuPage, because you don't need to bring an ID unless this is your first time around. But there are other forms of ID that you can bring in other than your driver's license. You can bring in something like a utility bill or anything like that, and then yeah, you'll be able to vote.
Okay, good.
Yeah, there other forms of ID are acceptable too.
Okay, great. Thank you.
This is Kim. I have a couple questions, Jean. The first one is regarding election judges. You don't have to be of age to vote to be an election judge. Is that correct?
Right. With SB 1863, they're allowing election judges to be 16 or older. And
okay,
they won't have school that day.
So a good use of their time. So
and
can people still get training? Is that a possibility?
Yes, we have online training right now, and then we have some limited in-person training going on right now, all socially distant and safe. It depends on what you're going to be asked to do as to what type of training you'll be getting. But I will say, but again, it's very humbling because the young people pick this up very, very quickly.
All the tech, yeah, faster than we do. Like Sophie here on the call.
Yeah.
And my other question is very different. It's like, how can we help someone with disabilities access the ballot during this time? I mean, obviously there's the mail-in voting, but what recommendations do you have in general?
Well, we do have, at polling places, we do have the touch screens, and they also have the headphones for those who have vision challenges there. We also have an affidavit for assistance if you want to help someone through vote by mail on that.
And are those available at all the early voting locations as well as
Yes.
on election
Yes.
day? Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Kim, I had kind of a question going off of your first question about polling judges. I'm assuming there's a place on the website where I can get that information to send it to our high schoolers with kind of detailed information on how they apply and get the training.
Right.
Kim, you seem to be the link wizard. I don't know if you can look that up quickly.
There's a button on our
Yeah,
homepage.
yeah, absolutely.
Okay, awesome.
But I will say we're doing pretty well with election.
I will find that.
Okay, that's good to know. You know, I can think of a few that would be interested, but I mean, I'm really happy to hear that that's not as dire of an issue as we once thought it was going to be.
I have to tell you, it was very scary during the primary.
Mhm.
I I cannot tell you the feeling of getting through that first hour on election day during the primary and everything working pretty well, because we just didn't know. We didn't know if polling places would be closed. We didn't know if, you know, the buildings themselves would be closed to the public, because we had received 17 last minute cancellations, and 60% of our judges had who were already in place ready to go for election day dropped out, and it was pretty scary. I didn't get much sleep the night before.
If I could interject for just a second, my daughter Alexis was very pleased to find out this week that she will be an election judge for this coming election. She's 17 and can't vote yet, but really wanted to be a part of this, historic event. So yeah, just wanted to mention that we were really pleased. Oh, you could say hi.
Very good.
So, yeah,
Thank you. Thank you. Yes.
I have a quick question about, so I intend to vote by mail. I've applied, but I looked up to see when votes by mail would start to be counted. And what I found was not at your website. It was at a website for the, I think, the National Council of State Legislators. And it showed a difference between processing a vote versus counting a vote. So I guess processing would be signature verification. And what I first found was that it would be processed fairly soon, but it would be counted on election day. And I thought that would probably be overwhelming if they're all counted on election day. And then I looked up special rules for the 2020 election and saw that they would be processed as they came in, but it didn't mention when they would be counted. So are they going to be counted? I realize there can't be a tally given before election day, but are they going to start the counting process before election day this year?
Well, thank you for showing so much interest in this process. Not everyone goes as far as you have. So there's several steps. First of all, there's the verification stage, and then the ballots will be sorted and locked up until they wait for the next stage, which will start approximately 2 weeks before the election. And then the ballots will be scanned by the OptiScans, scanned. And so they will be in the system, but they will not be tabulated until after 7 p.m. on election night. So all the people who send back their ballots prior to election day, those results will be reflected on election night. Maybe with the exception of maybe whatever might be coming in on election day. I don't know how many of those will be actually counted. And then the rest will, with a postmark on or before November 3rd, will be counted during that 2-week certification period, along with the provisional ballots.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
I was wondering how our signatures verified.
Well, first of all, the election judges, there's going to be a team of election judges, and in DuPage County, that will be 2 Republicans and 1 Democrat. And they will look at the signature, and I don't want to spook people too much with the signature because most of the time the signatures are verified. If you've voted in a recent election, that signature will be in our system already. I just want people to know that just doing a little squiggle is not sufficient unless that's actually your signature. But then those 3 judges look at the signature, and there has to be an agreement. And if one of the judges disagrees, then that ballot does go through.
So are you saying it has to be unanimous? Or,
No, it does not have to be unanimous.
so if one disagrees,
Right,
gotcha.
right. But
Okay.
I have to say that it's been my experience that election judges take this very seriously, and they want to work together. And so, and another thing I wanted to emphasize with the vote by mail is that all voters are issued a number. And so it's not like someone can vote by mail and then go to a polling place and vote another way. That's just not going to happen. Our poll pads will catch that. There are a number of layers that will catch that. And that number that's assigned to you is only going to be allowed 1 ballot.
So I know that sometimes when I sign my name, I use my middle initial, and sometimes I don't. So is that going to be an issue?
You can just, well, you can look at what's on your address when it comes, because that's probably how you are in the system.
Okay.
So, but I don't think that they're going to be looking that closely at the middle initial.
Okay. Just wanted to
Well,
clarify that.
And Jean, you had said that if there is a problem in the mail-in ballot with a signature, the voter will be notified and have a chance to rectify that problem.
Right, right. You'll find out through ballot tracks when your ballot has been accepted. So that's another reason to sign up. But also, if you haven't signed up, no news is good news. Not that you have to realize a very small number of ballots are, challenged.
Got it. So Jean, quick question. Thank you for being here this morning. Appreciate it. And some great questions this morning. The question I have, so we signed up for mail, ballot by mail or mail-in vote. Signed up for it and now have changed our minds for various reasons, mostly because of the information that perhaps that ballot won't be counted or it'll be challenged in court. So we want to vote in person. And I talked to a lot of neighbors and they have this same worry. I know there's misinformation out there, but that is the general feeling, which is probably why there were a lot of people who showed up early for early voting in those very long lines. So we've changed our minds, and now we haven't received it yet, but we'll probably get this ballot in the mail, but we're going to still go vote in person. So there's 2 ballots out there, if you will. Now, we're not going to use, and of course we'll destroy the one we have, the mail-in ballot, but and you said there's one number for every voter, and that's matched. My question is, we have this, we're going to receive this mail-in ballot. Does that mean we can no longer vote in person, or is it fine to vote in person and just destroy that ballot, or that's my concern, because a lot of us have changed our minds since we first sent out that mail-in ballot request.
Excuse me. So if you early vote prior to when your vote by mail ballot arrives, you do not have to bring it with you to the polling place. They'll see it in the system. They can always see if you've received a vote by mail ballot or if you've requested one. I should say if you've requested one. So you can just go ahead, cancel it out, and then vote as usual. Same with early voting up until November 2nd. You don't have to bring the ballot and the envelope with you. It's nice if you do have it to bring it. So if you do have it, before you rip it up, take it with you to the polling place and then surrender it. And I don't know why, there's so much information out. It's very, very disheartening. Our office is taking vote by mail very seriously. Then on election day, if you don't show up with your vote by mail ballot packet along with the envelope, then you will be given a provisional ballot. But it's really important on election day, especially if you do have that vote by mail ballot, to bring it in. It just makes it easier. It doesn't mean that the provisional ballot won't count. It just means that your vote won't count until that 2-week certification process, because it takes a lot of time to go through and verify that that you are a registered voter and you've only voted once. And once that goes through, then the provisional ballot will be counted. But,
So if I go to vote early and I have this mail-in ballot that's in the system somewhere, am I going to be given a provisional ballot when I go to vote in person, or is that just a special case?
you're only given the provisional ballot on election day, November 3rd, if you show up without your mail-in ballot.
I see. Okay. But early voting, not
Right.
so.
Right. We have to have, it's done that way so that, it's done that way because what we don't want are people showing up to the polling place and voting normally, and then going home and putting their vote by mail ballot in the mail.
Got it. All right. Well, thank you for clarifying that, because I was concerned I was going to be given a provisional ballot if by voting early. because we're in the system registered to do mail-in voting, but we've changed our minds because of all the news you have that a certain party is going to be challenging in court all the mail-in ballots. So we're concerned about that.
I have another question. For in-person voting early and or at the polls, are masks going to be required and social distancing enforced?
I do not want to disenfranchise anyone, but I do not have the authority to require someone to wear a mask. I will say that we take the PPE very seriously, very seriously. We have masks to offer anyone coming in the door without one. And we will be taking special precautions for those who do show up without a mask. But I don't have that authority. I will say that I was very pleased that we didn't have that in the first 3 days of early voting at the fairgrounds. I was almost in tears to see this very long line of people waiting outside in the sun for 2 hours, wearing their masks, not being told to, wearing their masks outside for 2 hours, social distancing without being told. I think that most people are going to try to keep themselves and others safe. If those 3 days are any indication of what it's going to be like. And by the way, I want to tell you, in my office, we take PPE and masks very seriously, social distancing very seriously in my office with my staff. And that's what, and this building has a mask mandate. So I wish that could be consistent, but it's not in our country. So
Early voting is best at the fairground.
Jean, I have a question. I don't know if you had mentioned this earlier. When is what is the last day one can register to vote?
well, we have same-day voter registration in Illinois, so you can show up to a polling place without being registered, and you can register there, and you have to bring 2 forms of ID. I do recommend, though, that if you haven't registered, to not rely on that, because it does slow up the lines on election day to do that, and you don't want any issues to come up, and maybe a misunderstanding of the types of IDs and all that. It's so much easier to do it in advance, get it over with.
I just have 2 comments. First of all, I lived in the house for 25 years that Ellen Martin lived in Lombard. And yes, very proud of that, very proud of that. Unfortunately, we had to move, but I'm still in DuPage County. And second of all, I just have to commend your website. I go there all the time to prepare. I print out, people may not know this, you can actually get your ballot or what you're going to have to vote for, even the dog catcher, for Pete's sakes. And I commend your website. It's wonderful. And I highly recommend that people visit it early and often.
Thank you so much. Did you go to the event last month of Ellen Martin, the unveiling of the marker?
No, I was notified about it. I have actually played Ellen Martin, the honor of owning the house. But no, we've been avoiding crowds, so no.
I just want to say that Ellen Martin was a rebel. She was an attorney, and she was determined to challenge the fact that women could not vote in Illinois and in the country. And so she and a band of her friends showed up to vote and were able to vote in Lombard sometime in the late 1800s. And for that particular election, they were allowed to vote. But of course, they had to make changes after that.
Yeah, she actually read the election law very closely, and they omitted the fact that the voter had all kinds of qualifications, but forgot to say that it had to be a male. And so she let everybody in. Right down.
Right. She was a practicing attorney in Illinois and was not allowed to appear before a judge unless she was a registered voter. And so that was a way of saying that women couldn't appear before a judge as an attorney because they couldn't vote.
Okay. Jane, I had a quick question before this coming over. I was just looking at the website and I see the translation in many languages. That's great, you know. But my concern is still because we got a second generation like Latino, or maybe another from other countries, you know. The question they are in there, they are no answer in the language they are supposed to be translated. One thing. Second thing, it's a phone number where the people can ask in different language, even not in Spanish, in different language. Because I don't see anything like this. And the third question is that in the polls, it's going to be people around to support people who don't speak English, you know, maybe Spanish or another language.
By the way, thank you. Great question. I take the languages very seriously in this office. And by the way, after I started, I said, you know, when we had openings in the front, I said, we're going to be filling them up with those openings with people that know different languages. And so in our front of our county clerk's office, we have 13 languages covered, as well as sign language. I will have to look into that. If you give me some more information, I can look into exactly what you're talking about. On election day, with regard to our website, I don't know the answer to that right now, but I can look that up quickly and get back to you. As far as election day, those who speak other languages are allowed to bring an interpreter with you, and then that interpreter would have to have an affidavit to assist you, to help you with the ballot. But, you know, on election day, I'm afraid that we are limited to English and Spanish as far as the ballot on election day. So,
Okay.
Can someone send me your contact information and I can get back to you on that?
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, Jean, I'll do that.
Thank you.
Well, Jean, thank you so very much for joining us today. We really appreciate and are grateful for your time and for all the work and attention that you give to your job. We so appreciate it. And I think I can say we'll keep you in our prayers as you continue to move to do this good work that you're doing. And I'd also like to thank Kim for helping facilitate this as well. I couldn't do it on my own for sure, and Lindsay as well. So thank you so much. And
thanks to Sophie, who admitted everyone into this chat.
And everyone, the 10:30 service is
Thank you, Sophie.
Thank you.
Thank
Yes,
you, Jean.
thank you,
Thanks, Sophie.
Mhm.
And Sophie is our future, Jean. So we're so
We're-
glad for her.
We're in great shape then.
We are definitely so.
Thanks, Jean, for your work.
Thank you, Jean.
Thank you, Jean.
Thank you.
Thank
Very,
you.
very challenging year, and we'll definitely be keeping you in our prayers for this this election year.
Okay.
That said it all. That
That
said
was
it all.
long. Okay. Bye, everyone.